Okay, we are live. We are here in Senate institutions, and we have House institutions representatives with us because this is our first committee of conference, not our last, first of this year. So let's go ahead and go around the room. Wendy Harrison, I'm chair of the Senate.
And I'm Rob Plunkett, Vice Chair of Institutions from the Banks District.
Troy Hedrick from Chittenden 15, House Corrections and Institutions, Second Building.
Alice Bevins, Chair of Corrections and Institutions from Springfield.
James Gregoire, Vice Chair of Corrections Institutions, Fairfield.
Senator Russ Engels, S District.
Great, and I just want to have a shout out to our staff who are taking care of us on a very limited schedule. Being responsive. So at this first meeting, what we'll do is I will communicate to the House representatives what our position is and our positions are on different funding mechanisms, and it'll be very similar to the conversation that I had with you in your committee. In general, speaking to the bonded versus the cash dollars. And our committee is generally supportive of the concept, which came about 3 or 4 years ago from the state treasurer, the previous state treasurer, but the current state treasurer also agrees that it's helpful and prudent to have cash dollars to reduce the amount of borrowing so that we reduce the amount of debt service. And I think that is a good idea. It is a little frustrating that we have a conversation about that system. In my experience, this is my third year, every time. So we asked, the Senate put in a report from JFO to go over the pluses and minuses of that sort of system. And what my intent is to have a conversation within the Senate. Hopefully you folks will do it within the House about that system when we come back next January. So you all are familiar with the spreadsheet. For reference, if anyone's watching, we have sets of columns for the governor's recommend, which is how the bill came to the legislature. And then the same columns with what the House proposed in response to that, and then columns of the Senate response to the House. So this group I know knows about the shading. And so what we've done is we've shaded areas where we are, where either body is different from the governor rec. And the bonding, let me start. We did end up similar in BGS. So again, for the public, we have sections depending on which agency receives funding. So the first section is the Agency of Administration, which is BGS is the majority portion of that. And the 3-acre parcel stormwater compliance is the first major difference that we have between the House and the Senate. And what we did was we reduced the amount in FY27. So that's not next year, but it's the following year. And we were cognizant that we may need to adjust that number, but we needed to find funding to keep the items that are in section 4, which we'll get to put that funding back. The House had removed it and the Senate wanted to get that funding, and we needed to be able to take those dollars from somewhere. And so the 3-acre parcel compliance was the area that we reduced first. That we fully expect to support that at an appropriate level in FY 27. We aren't sure what's going to happen in FY 26. It's a huge projects or multiple projects throughout the state. So if additional funding is needed based on what's used next year, we are certainly our intent is to fund FY 27 at the level necessary. The next one is line 8, the Pittsburgh Academy firing range upgrades. We worked with BGS when this is part of that same effort to find funding for the stuff in section 4. And we understood from BGS that the firing range wasn't at a point yet, or would likely not be at the point of needing the 200,000. Again, it's in FY 27, so we do have next year to adjust this allocation. And then the Burlington 32 Cherry Street parking garage, we reduced that from 500,000 to 250,000, again for that same section 4.
So may I ask a question?
Sure.
So that's 700,000 total in bonded. And you were looking for bonded money for what?
We were looking for bonded money to change it to, it's on the next page on section 4, to move bonded money into the cash fund, because into the cash column. And that is the three B's as they're discussed. It's 3 housing projects that would be supported by funding public infrastructure. And in the governor's recommend, they were shown as bonded dollars. We thought it was more appropriate if they're going to be funded at cash, because the funding would be immediate, because it would be for infrastructure that is necessary very soon.
So you freed up bonded dollars to go into cash.
Yes. Okay. We'll be talking more about that. The Bennington Battle Monument was changed. It was reduced from 5. Well, it was done in the governor's recommendation, and then the House put in 525,000. We appreciate that. And we reduced that to 425,000, which we think would be enough for next year. And then from our from the Senate Appropriations Committee, we received the project on line 38 and the project on line 39, both to be in cash. One is the study on multi-parcel use in downtown Montpelier, and that is to have an initial study that would discuss how to redevelop. There's been a lot of conversations about redeveloping the areas that fit behind us, obviously, I'm sure you know, and it obviously is not what it needs to be. And this is an updated study that would give some guidance on how to redevelop. And then a grant for recovery residents purchase, 250,000 was put in, and that would go to Department of Health and Community Development. Not Health and Community Development. Housing. Okay. Thank you. It was so that's 250,000, which is not the entire amount that's needed. My understanding is there's other funding elsewhere for that.
So on the Bennington Monument, did you hear anything about the roof and needing money to help replace the roof because there was damage from a storm? Has that been? I've heard it's been fixed.
The roof of the house?
No, the Bennington.
Yeah.
The monument itself.
Fencing around.
Yeah, fencing and there's the line that's over it.
So that was destroyed, and they weren't sure if insurance was going to cover that. And I've heard it's been repaired. Is insurance covering it?
I don't know, we can find out.
Because that was part of the concern. on
That was
our
my
end.
understanding. What, on the bill, he said that he didn't specifically say that insurance had covered it.
Yeah,
But it
let's,
is fixed.
It is
Yeah.
fixed, but the concern was,
Yeah,
we want to make sure that there's enough money for the RFP to
definitely,
go out. And it was 419,000. That was left from previous appropriation last year. So we reallocated that, but we wanted to make sure that there was enough coverage for the insurance piece. So let us do some work on that.
Sure.
Because we heard that we might need to pay for that, not get the insurance to cover. We're just not sure yet. That's why there's a 525 there.
and we came to this number in consultation with Commissioner Minoli
Right.
when we were searching for the additional funding.
Okay. Well,
But that would be very
we've got to check in because we
Yes.
heard different testimony.
okay.
I mean, we don't want to short them if we have to pay for the repair and insurance doesn't pay. Because 425 might not get us to the RFP
Okay,
and covering the insurance, covering the payment.
okay. All right.
Hmm.
And so then going to section,
And
I'm sorry.
I've got another question here. So do we know anything, the multi-parcel use for studying Montpelier that came from your Senate Appropriations Committee?
Yes,
Was that going to be in their appropriations bill? It wasn't here.
they moved it to this bill. That's my understanding. But they brought it to us, but they also provided funding.
In the cash part of it, to answer your question, yes, they are counting on this staying in their bill as far as on the cash portion of it. I mean, they're counting on it staying in our bill. That's the cash portion of it.
And the recovery residence is, what is that for? What are we gonna purchase? What does the state want to purchase?
So do you want to?
It's a facility in St. Albans, and I think it's the Hope, it's the Hope, Foundation that is using it to purchase a, 15-bed, structure, for first recovery.
Thank you.
I know a little bit more about the residents. So it's a 5-bed,
5-bed, I thought.
in St. Albans that's under contract. But, Hope for recovery.
If it wasn't here, it would be in the budget. Big bets.
Well, we don't know, but probably.
Oh, well, yeah, that was my understanding.
Okay. All right, so building community, so these changes that we made, the 250,000, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 250,000. You had increased it to 300,000, which is the amount that it typically was, that those grants were funded at, and we appreciated that increase. Again, to get to the result, to fund the cash fund, we reduced each of those by 50,000 in 26, but we kept it at 300,000 in 27. With the exception, we didn't reduce the agricultural fair and field days amount, because those are not different grants every year. Those go to the fairs and they depend on them, so we didn't want to reduce that. Okay, and then in section 9 is fire apparatus. That's another one that came to us from the appropriations committee.
Is that for a fire truck?
It's for a brush type fire truck. It's actually a really good price for a fire truck. And the Fish and Parks and Recreation, they don't have a truck like that at all, and they found a need for similar truck, and they were able to use one from New Hampshire. It was very helpful, and now that we have more fires, it's certainly a need, or seems
And that came from the center folks.
Yeah.
correct.
And I
Yes.
believe it was in the house version of the big bill.
That's what I understand. And then the Walleye Association, we talked about that in your committee.
Mhm.
We did add 25,000 in the cash fund for that. And then Veterans Home Incubator Farm, that was something that came to us late in the process. They were hoping we would provide 127,000 plus funding for installation. 45,000 was all that we could scrape up for them, but we really liked that project, which you probably know is on the Veterans Home property in Bennington. It's a 12-acre portion of that parcel would be used for this purpose. They would raise food, and the food would go to be used to be eaten by the folks at the Veterans Home. And the incubator portion of it is to incubate farmers. So it's to teach folks who are interested in farming, and that would include the veterans and other members of the community. So we thought it was a nice multi-purpose
So,
effort.
so is the money going to the agency of that, and they're the ones who are spearheading?
The
this?
money would go to the conservation districts. That's my understanding.
It is going through the agency of ag to conservation. It's, I think, with the language.
How much is the full project? You know,
Well, the full project is more, they wanted, they estimated for the first year 127,000, but then it was another 20 something thousand. It was roughly 150,000 to establish it.
and what would the 45 go to?
Just the initial, there was some equipment that they wanted to get. We would leave that up to them.
I believe better answer that's not actually in the bill, understood for the well, so it's called on that's on property. And we anything else. Would cover sort of a half.
And how much money do they have in the bank right now?
That I don't, you know that they can do the project with or without this. If this would do something for some capital projects and for some more.
Okay, and so the bright yellow, the White River Junction Courthouse, those two numbers add up to 8 million, which is what needs to be budgeted for, because that courthouse is coming to the capital project is finishing, the construction is finishing.
So why did you split that up between bonded? We had it all cash.
Right.
Why the split?
That was how it worked out when we put the housing package, the 3Bs.
So the 1.1 down went to the 3Bs from the cash. From the 8 million.
That and well, there were multiple numbers that changed, so that it wasn't, you can't really point to one number, but we can get you multiple numbers that changed
Mhm.
to allow that to happen.
From the walleye to the incubator farm and all around down through, we're searching for dollars.
Okay, and then the dry hydrant program. We were impressed by what they were doing, and they asked for, I think, $70,000 more. And, we didn't have that amount, but we did provide 35,000
Did
so that
they,
they could increase.
did they indicate with that initial 75,
I
70,000?
believe it was for, do you have it? Yes.
Not great.
It was to increase, their services. We can find out. They provide grants, as you,
Mhm.
so presumably it would be grants to municipalities.
That there are questions. Okay.
I think that's it.
So, James, do you have any questions here? Sure.
Well, I mean, small potato one, but the dry hydrant, we were told they wanted extra money, and it's basically gonna go with the salary, so just curious about that money, that it's not going to actual hydrants, et cetera. That's, yeah, just send us a letter April 30th.
Because they asked for more money than they bill.
Correct.
This is your Senate ed.
The header is incorrect because I had to put this together in like 40 minutes, but everything in the content is correct.
You can look at the education one.
Yes.
We believe in each other.
So we can figure out that question.
Okay.
To that.
Mhm.
Anything, Troy, you have anything?
I'm just looking scrolling my notes one more time. I mean, I certainly understand. The change that they represented to us.
Because they asked for more money in the big bill on the direct.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Mhm.
They didn't get it, so they came first.
They said what they had said to us was that they had been graciously giving back money before, and they had given back, I think, like $85,000 before. And now that they were underfunded for what the project was that they wanted to do. So that's why they asked for additional dollars back to finish their projects. And they said before they had actually given us money back that they did not need, that we had given them.
The reallocations.
Or in previous capital things. And now they were to the point now to where they thought that they could use that money to finish some projects that they had going forward.
I do have a question on, so section 4, line 39, this is the recovery of residents in St. Albans. 250,000. You had indicated that that's not the entire cost of the project.
That's my understanding.
Do you know what the balance is and how much? What
We
percentage of this?
We can get that for you.
And does this then become a state property?
I believe it was not going to become state property.
Do you know who owns the property once it's purchased?
No. Well, who would own it would be, the department. Well,
No, we
let us,
hope for a recovery.
Hope Road Recovery. And it's recovery, is it male and female?
That's the
And do you know anything about the property? Is this for renovations? Is this purchase of the building as is?
short answer to that is that's really good. Don't have.
And then similar questions for the incubator. Who owns that property once it's done, the well and the home house?
the,
That's all.
the,
They would own the greenhouse and they would own the well.
That would be a legal question because it'd be installing something with a fixture doesn't run. And so I don't know exactly how that would,
And what about upkeep on the well?
But it would,
I don't believe it's got any.
on the well,
It would be.
yeah, I'm sure that would be the veterans. Yeah. The veterans.
Responsible for it is the question.
Yeah.
We did not ask that specific. There is a well that's on the veteran land now that's for the project. that range is applied. That's how the operation doctor would maintain it so that it's usable, because the other one's not usable, so it wasn't acceptable.
Was there gonna be an MOU or anything?
Don't have the history.
We can find out.
Yes.
Okay.
So let us go back. And we'll come back with active.
When do you think we would do that?
It's 2:30. We should have it by 4, I would say.
Okay,
2:34.
okay,
Right now, I can text you.
great.
Does that make sense?
Sounds good.
This is back at 2:40.
2:40.